Much. Hi, I'm Abigail, and excited to be at this hybrid event. As a co-working space operator, I am really passionate about unique opportunities like hybrid events because it allows people from every walk of life, every ability, every time zone to be able to show up together. And
yeah.
All right, so we're going to be talking about the art of efficient work, and the title uses the word art because that's what's important here. Systems and processes are important, but not as important as art and who we are on the inside and how our brains, hearts, and minds all work together with each other. Before we dive into the nitty-gritty, I'm going to talk a little bit about why project management is so important. For some of you, this will be preaching to the choir. For others of you who have decided to show up here but haven't done project management before, I hope this gives you a little bit of a peek into what you're getting yourself into. So project management, the definition is it's a process of organizing and overseeing tasks and resources in order to achieve specific goals. So it's goal-oriented, and you might be used to relying on a to-do list. A to-do list can be helpful for keeping track of individual tasks, but it falls short when it comes to managing larger projects, workflows, stuff like that. Project management is a comprehensive approach to organizing and completing projects efficiently and effectively. So you're breaking down a larger project into smaller, more manageable tasks, assigning those tasks. So if you have an opportunity to outsource it, or you have someone on your team, and then tracking the progress and deadlines in a centralized system. So instead of status meetings and that sort of thing, it's all in a system. It gives you a bird's eye view of the entire project, and you can see, every individual can see how their task fits into a larger picture. It also just helps with the traction of moving towards the goal that you have at the end of your deadline with those milestones along the way. It enables communication and collaboration, which we'll talk a bit about more later, which is one of the biggest takeaways I've found with using a system like this. When you already have a team working together, bringing in a different tool such as Asana can help with collaboration and communication. We'll be talking about Asana specifically at different parts today, but there are several options out there. The goal is to focus on efficiency and how you can find the right tool that works for you. This is just a visual here to show you that on the left, we have like Post-its everywhere. And that's the messy to-do list. And on the right, we have a project management system. So it's, sometimes the messy to-do list works. And I'm gonna make a case for why project management instead of the messy to-do list. And at the end of the day, we only have this one wild and precious life. And this, like what you see here, this is what I feel excited about. We've got the camera there, we've got art, we've got rest, we've got, tropics, travel. Those sorts of things are what excites me. And so I'm looking for ways to get more of that. And I'm assuming that the rest of you are human beings, so you also would like more sleep, more art, and perhaps less chaos. So by providing a clear structure and plan for completing tasks, project management helps reduce feelings of overwhelm and stress. So if you have a long to-do list with no clear priorities, your body is going to absorb that chaos and you are going to feel stressed. Project management solves that. It can also help with time management. So you can manage your own workload, avoid burnout, and be able to put the brakes on and make sure you're not taking on too much at once. Of course, that time gained back, you can spend sitting on the beach, or perhaps running the New York Marathon. You East Coast people seem to do a little bit less resting in your downtime. By breaking down larger projects into smaller, more manageable tasks, project management can help us feel a sense of accomplishment and progress towards our goals. So when we see these little wins that we're getting along the way and that it's working towards that goal, it's motivating. It keeps us engaged instead of discouraged and frustrated. So that boosts confidence, motivation. And that's true if you're just working on your own thing as a solopreneur, as a business coach, or if you're on a big team. And then it promotes better collaboration and communication between team members, reducing the likelihood of miscommunication or misunderstandings. So when you've got a good tool to manage communication, you have less miscommunication. And then lastly, a centralized system for tracking progress and sharing updates. Everyone on the team can feel more connected and supported. So you'll see a reflection there and a positive work culture, healthier work-life balance as well, with the whole team together sharing this unburdened life. So those are some heartfelt reasons why project management is important. And then here's a few literal reasons. It helps you stay organized. That's a no-brainer. It promotes collaboration, no-brainer, and it helps you prioritize. So I'll say those three things one more time. If you're a note-taking person, the literal wins, the features of project management is it helps you stay organized, it promotes collaboration, and it helps you prioritize. You can't lose sight of what's important when you've got a bird's eye view. You stay focused on the tasks that will have the biggest impact on your goals. I'm going to give you a few examples of different types of workers who can use project management, and just to give you kind of some perspective and start thinking about how you might use it. A software development team might use project management tools to develop the scope of a new feature or project so they can set milestones, deadlines, identify what risks might be coming, plan for that, and then organize the tasks and move towards those goals. So that will allow less errors in the project they're completing and completing it faster. A freelancer might use project management to organize client work, prioritize tasks, and so as you're doing that, and especially with some of our, like the interior designer, the coaches, and healers and virtual assistants, I think this is all where you lie. And so I'm going to stress this point. The more you are getting into this visibility, you can see your capacity. Which allows you the freedom to say yes or no to certain projects. You could take on more clients, more work, and you can know kind of where your capacity's at, if it's time to raise your rates, that sort of thing. So again, getting that bird's eye view, seeing the big picture is gonna help you achieve your goals faster. And then a student might use project management on a big research paper. So you can break that down into smaller tasks and see where you're going and basically avoid procrastination and have a higher quality paper because you've spread out the work over time and seeing where you might actually have a blocker that you need resolved, or where maybe you need to check in with someone else and get some feedback. Asana is a website, app, and versatile tool that can do project management. Hang on, AirPod out. Everyone can hear me still, yeah? Mm-hmm. All right. So Asana's user-friendly interface and intuitive design make it easy to get started and customized to your needs. So it is valuable for individuals and teams alike. Someone on this call mentioned they use it as a basic to-do list. You can do that. It is flexible and customizable. There is a free version, and then there are also paid features. I pay about $30 a month for my whole company because I want the pay features. And I also include my whole household in that. If you need tips on like how to get the best bang for your buck, just ask me and I'll tell you how I have it set up. There's like different workarounds you can do to get different features at different rates. But it saves, I'm $30 a month and it saves me countless in time, meetings, mistakes, that sort of thing. At its base level, you create tasks and projects, assign them to team members, set due dates and reminders, dialogue about the tasks, and track progress in real time. We talked about a few of the other alternatives. ClickUp is being used by some folks on this call. Trello is popular, Jira, Monday.com, Rake. If you put project management tool into Google Images, you will see there are probably 20 that are highly used, and almost all of them have free versions. And they have a variety of different features, but pretty much all of them can do what we talked about there: tasks, projects, assignments, dialogue. And then I'm going to play a quick video just to make sure everyone's awake.
Place to organize projects, delegate tasks, and track progress towards completion. To do this, the system comes with a number of handy features like task management, multiple project views, automation, and milestones. You can organize tasks into projects and teams, and Asana even comes with a feature for project portfolio management. Asana works for companies of all sizes and comes in 4 different plans, including a free forever basic plan. If you want to test out some of the more advanced features, you can even do a free trial for paid plans. Asana comes loaded with a variety of features to help you reach your project goals. These features vary depending on which plan you choose, so just keep that in mind when you're shopping around. Central to the way that Asana works, task management lets you add tasks, set deadlines, assign to colleagues, and organize them into projects. This makes Asana flexible for working on a project with a set beginning and end, or for working on ongoing projects like a content calendar for your blog. If you need to really drill down into your task, you can sort and filter by certain criteria. Asana also lets you create custom fields to suit the system to your needs. Place to organize projects, delegate tasks, and track progress.
All right. So now, back to the slides. One note of caution, because I'm sure everyone is now very excited to get into the tips. And I want to do a little like stop sign, caution sign before we get nerdy. I know you're ready to take back your life, build your Asana, all of that. But it is essential to understand your business process before implementing any software solution. So going straight into software without understanding your process can lead to frustration, inefficiency, and wasted resources. So taking the time to analyze and document your current process, you can identify areas for improvement. Ensure that the software solution you're implementing is addressing your specific needs. So you got to start with that solid understanding. Can I get a thumbs up from everybody that they promise me they're not going to just dive into Asana without doing some good reflection on their business process? Awesome. Thank you. All right. Okay, we're going to do 8 tips here on my best tips for using Asana. And then I've got some bonus tips too for the more advanced people who are already using all of these tips. Okay, so number 1 is have a clear project structure in Asana. So this means set up your projects and tasks in a logical structure that reflects the hierarchy of your project. So again, don't be tempted to just make a to-do list. Your tasks need to be organized into projects and have whether you're using the sections feature or the tags feature, organize them. 2, use sections and subtasks. And you can see on this screenshot here, you can see sections. So in this project, there's a section, this is like a marketing content management project, and there's a section for each special event. And then under those events are tasks and then further subtasks. So you can see what's coming up. 3, set deadlines. There is no point in using a software like this if you're not setting deadlines. The wonderful, wonderful thing about setting deadlines in a project management tool versus in a calendar or on a piece of paper is that you can sort by deadline. You can easily change the deadline. You can say, show me everything that's due this week, and then you can cry because you overcommitted. So there's no surprises when you set deadlines. It also shows everyone else what the expectations are. Number 4, assign tasks. Again, you're going to want each task to be assigned to a person. It could be you, it could be your spouse, it could be your virtual assistant, it could be your graphic designer, it could be some subcontractor you hired to do some small task. Assign that task to them. That way, again, with this technology, each person can see their own tasks. They can also see what their other tasks are. On our team, when I am about to delegate something, one of our standards is that before I do it, I kind of look at what their workload is. I try to do some respectful capacity planning on their behalf before I just throw a task at them. That is a standard. That's one of my other tips. And you can flex for your environment. But the goal here is that we are assigning tasks, so then there's ownership. 5, use Asana to communicate. And you can see here, this is the comments section of a task. In the task itself, you can dialogue back and forth with all of the stakeholders on that task to communicate about that specific task. This helps keep everyone in the loop. It ensures you're all working towards the same goals. You can reference it later. So how many times have you been in a conversation where there's been a miscommunication that occurs? Nobody knows exactly what happened. That was 3 weeks ago. Who did that? What happened to it? I have a vague memory. You can look that up in Asana. You can find the date it was completed. You can see what the conversation was about it. And this, again, I use this all the time. I am a productivity expert. I'm an Asana guru, and I still don't remember everything that happened. And I come back and look, and I'm like, oh, that's right. I did make this decision. Not only that, it's great for a real-time conversation. Instead of having the urgency of text messages or emails or Slack messages ping without context, you choose when you go into your Asana and you engage with the project and the question. It keeps the dialogue non-urgent and keeps it focused. 6, love your inbox. Asana has a feature called the inbox, and it is like an email inbox for your Asana notifications. And you can see it here on this screen. In the center here is the feed of the inbox. And it tells you when, like, let's say you're doing a dialogue on one of those tasks, it shows up when there's a new comment. So let's say Felicia, Courtney has said, hey, Felicia, can I get your feedback on this? And then Felicia writes the feedback, and then Courtney would have a notification that the feedback was there. So you love your inbox, and you show up to your inbox at least once a day, and you work on reviewing those things and deciding what your next actions are. Again, it helps with that focus and reduces that overwhelm. 7, set standards. So software is just software. You have to decide how you use it. And part of that warning I gave earlier about knowing your process will help with this. So you're going to create a consistent naming convention. This is how I name tasks. This is how I name projects. You saw on that earlier example of the marketing project, it had an O2 at the beginning. That is a standard that company is using. And then defining how you're going to use the features. For example, every task must have a deadline and a person. That could be a standard you have, or you could say, it's okay if they don't. Like, we have an icebox, it hangs out. We'll decide at our meeting what the deadline is. You adapt it for you, and you set those standards and you communicate them to everybody. And you have accountability around those standards so that things can be streamlined. And it sets expectations. One of the standards that I also recommend when you're working with a team is expectations for how often team members should be checking Asana and responding to notifications. Again, setting those expectations and being clear about them makes it so people aren't guessing or overworking just because they don't know what the expectations are. And then number 8 is to continuously evaluate and improve. So it's a tool that like your project management tool is just a tool. So it can evolve and adapt to your changing needs over time. So always be evaluating how you're using it and look for ways to improve your workflows and processes. So those are the 8 big tips that everyone should be doing. I'm going to mention 5 bonus tips. And I'm not going to go into detail on them, but when we get to Q&A, if you feel free to bring it up and we can dialogue about it. And I can mention them again too. So number 1 is set dependencies. So you can have tasks be dependent on each other. And And that basically means that when one task gets finished, the second task gets notified that it's ready to work. It's become unblocked, and now you have the resources you need to get started with your task. There are tags and custom fields. There are customized workflows, so you can create automations inside of Asana. And there are integrations, so you can integrate Google Drive, Slack, Trello. For example, in Slack, if you have the integration set up, you can right click on a Slack message and say, create task in Asana. Same thing with Gmail. So in my email inbox, I create tasks. When I get an email that is something I need to act on, I actually create a task for it. So it goes into my project management system, and I can archive that email, and I can go handle it when it's the right time to do so. And then existing templates. So for everyone's industry that was mentioned on this call, you can Google interior designer Asana template. And people there are free ones, and then there's like indie made ones where you can pay $5 to the person who made it. But there's all sorts of templates you can start with, so you're not starting from scratch. And those templates you'll want to edit, but they'll have a lot of the recurring tasks that you're already doing, like monthly billing, reviewing, reaching out to clients, checking in, setting up my Acuity availability this week, stuff like that you'll see in those free templates. And then the last bonus one is set up saved searches. And because of the versatility of the tool, you can search the data in all sorts of different ways. So you can set up a saved search to see, hey, what is happening at my company today? And only see the tasks for today. Or you can say, what's happening in this specific project? I personally like to manage my time and focus blocks. So I have some things that are more administrative and some things that require deep work. Well, I have a tag for all of my deep work tasks, and I do on my deep work day, I do a saved search, and I turn off all of the other noise that's happening in Asana. I hide the notifications, there's no pings, there's no nothing. And it's just my deep work saved search. It's 6 tasks, and I get to treat myself to that deep work moment. Let's see. I have a few quick examples, and then we can dive into Q&A. We talked about examples a little bit already. One thing that's really good is event planning. This is something we can all imagine. So basically, if you had a project for an event you're planning in Asana, you could use it. You could have your tasks about booking a venue, coordinate with the vendors, manage attendees. You can also track RSVPs, dietary restrictions, and other important information. So there are ways that it can serve as a database at the same time. You could have it run your, plan your strategy for your marketing campaigns and accomplish those tasks. We talked about software developers using it, and we talked about content creation. So you can have it writing blog posts, creating videos. You can have a template in Asana for all the steps you do every time you write a new blog post or publish a video to your YouTube channel. And you can add features in that sort of content process so that you can require approval. So if you are running a blog and you've got 2 writers that work for you and 2 graphic designers in your Asana, you can have those tasks set to them to create that content. And then you can have even a feature, there's a little check mark you turn on that says that they need to get your approval on it before it can be marked as done. So then that approval process is built in of you checking the work. And then the last example I want to talk about for how you can use Asana is to manage your personal tasks and projects, such as planning a trip or organizing your home. Using Asana for household management can help demonstrate the unseen labor done by women. So it provides that centralized system. There's due dates, there's accountability, and there's a place to have communication instead of like awkward texts to your kids about how they didn't finish their chores. You can have this centralized system where there's clear visibility. All of the same reasons why it's good to communicate, it's good to increase better communication with the team applies to a family as well. So everyone in the household sees the contributions of each individual. So those can be tracked and acknowledged. Traditionally, household management tasks such as grocery shopping, meal planning, and cleaning have often fallen to women. And I know we all feel that. And those contributions can go unnoticed. But if you are using a tool like Asana, the work can be distributed more fairly, and the contributions of each individual can be acknowledged and appreciated. So like at the end of the day, the Asana process can help promote a more equitable distribution of household labor and raise awareness of the unseen labor done by women. So if all of that feels a little overwhelming, and it's a lot of talk about software, I know one person on this call mentioned they're still like figuring out how to like really make their computer their friend and not their enemy. So I know a lot of this can feel overwhelming, but if you are already awesome at grocery shopping, meal planning, running a household, arguing with your kids, then you are a pro at project management. You've got a process. You can now simplify it, automate it, and free up brain space by using technology. So Q&A, chit chat.
For all of them. Really interesting presentation. One question thing I struggle with is having, getting bogged down in the interacting with Asana, so that it, how do you keep it from derailing you and becoming its own distraction?
So that is a concern that is shared by pretty much everyone I know that uses any tool, right? It's like we have these things that are supposed to make our life easier, and then they feel overwhelming and suddenly it's chaotic. I'm curious, in your experiences, is it you with a team or you alone?
Probably most, I've used it both personally and with teams, but yeah, probably more on my own. It would be more.
Okay, so what I would recommend, so when it's overwhelm that you've created for yourself, which is something I am really good at, I like get so excited. Like I mentioned those deep work days, I like get all inspired and I'm in this good thought zone. And so I make this like really big, passionate list of all these things I'm going to accomplish this year, as if I didn't have like a business I'm already running and 4 trips planned with my family, and there's a bit of a reality check I need to give myself sometimes. And I think that's where really good time boundaries come in. And so the process I recommend is, and this comes down to setting standards, and I like that standard setting can just be yourself in your own process with no one else involved. And I will spend an hour a day triaging all my different inboxes and getting my workload set for the day. I will spend an hour a week planning the week. And that way, you've set your priorities. No matter what, we're never going to finish what we said we would do in a day. It's just, we just love to be productive. It's part of the American culture. And our eyes are bigger than our stomach. So don't beat yourself up for putting too many things on your to-do list. Trust that you prioritized well because you had the system in place and you had the standards. And then you start the next day by, facing it head on and telling yourself, hey, I've done the planning, I've done the time management. If I don't get everything done, it's okay, because I know the most important things got done because I planned it.
Thanks.
So I was wondering, what are your thoughts about moving your team away from like spreadsheets from Google Docs into Asana? Like I've done that download and it's quite simple. I still need to figure out the section part, but the team still tends to go back to, I'll just do a spreadsheet in Google Docs. And we have so many spreadsheets that we're trying to move away from that gently. What are your thoughts on like convincing the team to use Asana because everything's all in one place?
So I think that a big part about getting buy-in is getting people excited about those wins we talked about, that their progress is going to be tracked in a way that they're acknowledged and rewarded, that everyone's going to feel quick wins, that they're going to get their questions answered in an organized fashion, right? If everyone's showing up and agreeing, like, yeah, every morning I check my Asana inbox and I respond to notifications and I do an hour and then I get to my work, you're creating a culture with standards. And then, so I would start from from like those heart reasons I talked about how it's just going to be better for everyone. That is in general how you get buy-in. And then you also just need to provide accountability. And this can be tricky because if your company doesn't have leadership that is giving you that power to provide that accountability and show up as the person in charge, then like you might not ever be successful and you will be frustrated. And that's when my like life coach part of me comes out and says like, stop trying to like swim upstream, figure out if you can do the best you can and not fight the bad leadership, or do you want to start your own business where you get to be the project manager you want to be?
Well, I think you read right into it. That's exactly where I am, because I think that some of the members on the team are afraid of that when you see that due date, like people are afraid of like having that accountability, so they're pushing back on it also, because it's like, I try to warm them up by saying like, you're going to create subtasks, you're going to create some tasks to get you ready to, get the project done. Like you can always change the due date. Like I'll work with you on that, but I think still they're afraid of that like deadline, so I'm working.
Yeah, and it does. I mean, it definitely takes some getting used to. I have someone on my team who's newish, about 6 months in, and she's a perfectionist and an overachiever, and so feels overwhelmed by the deadline thing and feels like a failure if she doesn't complete all her work in a day, even though I'm like, nothing matters. We're just run a co-working space. Like this isn't an emergency room. And so teaching her to know her worth and move those deadlines, right? Like, and basically empowering people to be their own project manager too, to speak up and say like, hey, I actually can't meet this deadline, or that sort of thing. Again, it's going to be a culture thing where you're facilitating a place where we're all owners here of our tasks and excited to collaborate instead of scared of, accountability. There was a question yeah.
I have a question that kind of goes off what you were saying. So when it comes to assigning tasks to people and designating the deadlines, can we or do we assign tasks only to people who are in our same organization, or can we work with, like for example, in my case, vendors? So when I have a communication with them, this basically eliminates the million emails that are going to get lost.
Yes.
We have everything tracked. So does that mean that I need to have Asana and they need to have Asana, and we kind of link our account?
Yes. Okay. So great question. The way it works is you can have your Asana and you can add them as a guest user on your account. If they already have Asana, they'll know what that means and how to do it. But if they don't have Asana, it's not a big deal. You tell them like, this is how the work gets, this is how we communicate at our company. If that's not a fit for you, you're not the right vendor for us. And in general, vendors are willing to, I worked at a marketing agency for a couple of years where every single client had a different project management tool they used. And my job at our marketing agency was to be the person who went into everyone's Asana or whatever to like get what information I need to know and communicate and that sort of thing. Vendors know that they're going to have to work in your system in some way. And again, this comes down to standards and clear communication and expectations, but you can add that vendor as a guest on your Asana. It's free. It doesn't cost anything extra, and they can go in and see their tasks, and you can dialogue back and forth, and they can dialogue with other people on your team.
Oh, so they would basically need to have like a login for there in order to be able to see the conversation, but they don't necessarily need to have the app downloaded or the version purchased or whatever.
No, yeah, they don't need to make any purchase. They would need to make an account, but like you would put in their email address, they get sent an invitation. You could send a quick Loom video saying like, hey, and Loom is a great tool where you can just record quick videos where you give someone a tour and you can say, hey, Jorge, like this is the system we use. Here, please follow the instructions here. You'll see your tasks here. And that person can set up email notifications if they want, so that they're getting emails and then about your messages, but you're not getting emails. You live in your Asana and your vendor can talk to you there. They can upload their invoice, right? They can upload their invoice there and create a task for you that says pay Jorge. Like there are, you know, it's great. I can stay on. I did see a question in the app that I wanted to address. It says creating your to-do list. Can you talk about the mobile app? So yeah, let me briefly talk about, so Asana has a web version. They also have an app you can download on your computer. It works pretty much the same as the web version. So you don't have to download software. And then the app that you can get on your phone shows you what's happening in your Asana. So I tend to do most of my Asana work on my computer because of the standards I have for myself and when I choose to work and when I don't work. But I like having the app on my phone. I don't get any notifications. No, that's a number one rule in life. Try not to have any notifications on your phone ever. I don't get any notifications from Asana, so there's no distractions. But I occasionally, like I said, I use it for managing my home, right? So I'll have my list of errands or I'll have my grocery shopping list. And I can easily pull that up then in the app, see my grocery shopping list and check off the things I get as I put them into my cart. And I love that. It gives me, I'm more likely to go grocery shopping if I can mark the task as done in Asana.